Welcome back to the channel, guys. Hopefully you all are doing well. A little bit of a different video than we've been doing in the past few uploads here. Weather is kind of taking a turn for the silly here. Really, last couple of days were really warm, in the 60s and the 70s a couple of days. There's even some areas where fish have spawned. I went out the other day trying to find bedfish to make a bed fishing video and actually saw tons and tons of fry. The weather's been weird. I haven't seen any bass on beds in my area here in upper northern Illinois. I have seen signs of bass. Today's video is going to be an arsenal video. So we've kind of touched on this subject early on in the channel days. It was a gear review. I want to touch on it a little bit more in depth. There have been some updates to the arsenal, and I just want to go over the arsenal in general. I don't know if I do a good job of it in the videos, and we're fishing, what I'm using, the rods, the reels, the line, and I don't know if I explained that good. Today's video, like I said, is a dedicated rod and reel video. We're gonna go through the arsenal, talk about all the rods and reels that we use here currently on the channel. Let's get into this arsenal video, guys. All right, guys, so starting off today's arsenal rod reel review walkthrough, we're gonna go through the first two combos that I purchased when I was getting back into fishing. Now this goes back, gosh, I might have had these combos already almost 3 years, and they've served me very well. So we'll go through them first, and then we'll get into some newer stuff that we've gotten over the last 3 years or so. So our first combo that we're going to go through here is this one right here. It's a Bass Pro Shop combo. So both the reel and the rod, Bass Pro. The reel is a Formula bait caster from Bass Pro. The rod is a Tourney Special rod. The rod is a 7-foot medium heavy rod. The reel is a 7:2:1 gear ratio reel. Nothing fancy. Internal brakes, and then you got your dial brakes, obviously, for your settings here on external. This was really my all-around rod. This was my first rod that I purchased when getting into fishing. So I started off, or getting back into fishing, I should say. So I started off with this rod reel combo right here. This was my do-everything setup, whether it was a spinner bait, chatter bait, jig, Texas rig, wacky rig. Plus, it was the first bait caster I ever owned, so I wanted something fairly reasonably priced. I think I got the rod for like 50 bucks, and the reel was just around there, $50-$60. So you're looking at a $100 combo right here. I know they've discontinued this rod, so I have this rod in a 7-foot medium heavy, and then I also have it here on the next rod in a 7.6 heavy. They discontinued this rod, so I know my 7.6 heavy, I got this 7-foot medium heavy for like 50 bucks. 7.6 heavy, got it on sale when they were discontinuing this style. That was 30 bucks. So for the price, the rods are really nice, actually. I was pretty impressed with them as far as the performance out of them, what I was getting with them. 7:2:1 gear ratio reel, a medium heavy 7-foot rod. I like the length because I can get those casts out there, and I like the medium heavy just to have some backbone. Like I said, this was my all-around rod starting off, so I needed to have a variety of types of lures and baits that I could throw on that. That's why I went with this one. 7:2:1 gear ratio reel. I like that speed of reel for almost all applications. For me, I can really slow down, I feel like, more than I can speed up with a reel. So I like a higher geared, or a higher end of the spectrum geared reel. So 7.2-to-1, obviously, I would say is my ideal all-around type reel, and we'll get into that as we get further along here and we get into a little bit more technique specific or specific applications. So first rod, like I said, 7.2-to-1 gear ratio reel, 7-foot medium heavy rod. That's kind of my all-around rod. It's the same rod that Bass Pro Shops Tourney Special was a 7.6 heavy rod. I wanted it for that heavy structure. I was originally going to use it for frogging, but I did not like the tip on this one. It didn't give me the right action when working the frogs that I use. I have a jig tied on here that I just put on just to have another jig option for the day that I was going to take it out, but I decided not to take it out. So this rod has not been used yet, and we're yet to use this particular rod this year. We'll see when it gets used. Right now it's fairly early, so there's not a lot of heavy cover. I really wanted to start really trying some punching with this setup. One thing I didn't touch on this rod here is the line. This is 12-pound fluorocarbon. This is the Guggen Squad fluorocarbon 12-pound. Again, I'm primarily throwing some moving baits here, things that, you know, all around type baits. So I went with that fluorocarbon line here. On this rod, like I said, heavy cover, so there's braid on here. This 50-pound braid. Here is Power Pro braid. The reel is a 6.6-to-1. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's right there. 6.6-to-1 reel. So really, for what I wanted to use it for, which was frogging or flipping, really that's a slow reel by most people's standards and even by my standards. So this is one area where I would like to improve, and I kind of improved on it in another rod reel combo further on down the line with the 7.2 heavy rod over here that has the Corrado DC on it. That's what I'm now going to, I think, use more so for flipping and some cover. Like I said, this more or less, this rod I want to use for punching, but I need a different reel on here. I don't feel real confident with that 6.6-to-1. I think that's a little bit too slow for that application. However, I think this reel would be good for like cranks, deep dive in or medium dive in, or even shallow, you know, like square bills and whatnot. That 6.6-to-1, you want that slower gear ratio so you can get the cast out there, but you work it a little bit slower so you really get the best benefit out of getting your bait down, diving that bait down with that slower gear ratio reel, bringing it in slower to the bank or to the boat, really works out. The one negative that I would have on both of these Bass Pro reels themselves specifically is their durability. You know, I'm pretty good with my gear. Obviously, as you can see, most of my rods, obviously this one's missing a rod sock, but it broke. So, but my rods are typically in rod socks. I take really good care of them. I'm not throwing them around or, you know, in my house. They're kept in my house. I'm not moving them from a boat to a car. Really, it's from the house to the car and to the bank. And I'm really good with my gear. But really, the quality-wise of it, and hopefully the camera's picking that up, is there's a bunch of scuffs and scrapes. And like I said, these are almost 3 years old, but the way that I take care of my gear, I'm really not thrilled with it. I mean, really, you can see on here how bad this one has gotten. Like I said, this has been my all-around reel, and it's really taken a beating here. So I'm not really too impressed with the quality as far as holding up to those nicks and dings. I'm really not impressed with the quality overall with these reels from Bass Pro. But as far as performance and, you know, holding up for what they're supposed to do and how I've been using them, they're working out great. Same thing with the rods. Really impressed with the rods for the price. Like I said, $30 and $50 respectively here, and got one on sale. One I think was full price, $50. So again, the 6.6 to 1 gear ratio reel is on a 7.6 heavy. Not ideal, but I'm making it work right now. And like I said, I haven't used this yet, and I do have plans to take this particular reel and move it onto another rod for cranks. I don't have a dedicated crank rod, nor am I particularly a fan of cranks, but I do have an option, and then I can put something else on this rod. All right, guys, moving right along. You know it. You've seen it in almost all my videos. The Shimano SLX. This is not the DC version. This is the regular SLX. I had this one before the DC. So the non-DC SLX is in a 7.2 to 1 gear ratio. Again, like I said, all around gear ratio that I like, 7.2 to 1, or in that area, 7, something. Gear ratio for me seems to be my sweet spot. Like I said, I can slow it down if I need to. And typically you're slowing it down versus trying to speed it up in most cases. But 7.2 to 1, obviously my sweet spot. I like it. I definitely know how to slow it down if I need to. If I need something faster, I typically go to a faster reel at that point rather than trying to speed up. Line on here, again, this is 12-pound fluorocarbon, straight fluoro. This is the P-Line Tactical. I'm giving them a try as far as fluoro. I haven't found a fluorocarbon that I like just yet. If you have your favorites, go ahead and put them down in the description or in the comments below. Leave a comment of your favorite fluorocarbon or any fluorocarbon you guys want me to try out here on the channel. Like I said, I'm looking for my favorite. Like I said, 12-pound fluorocarbon on here, P-Line Tactical, 7.2 to 1 gear ratio reel. Now we move to the rod. The rod is a 7-foot medium heavy favorite Defender. Obviously, probably one of the more popular, I would say, rods that Favorite offers, at least from what I can tell. What I like about the rod is I've become a lot more comfortable with it. Before, I didn't really like it. At the time, it was, I think, my lightest rod compared to the other two in the lineup. I got the rod and the Corrado DC around the same time. I didn't have any of the SLX rods at that time. So it took some time for me to get used to it. I've become very, very accurate. I've noticed I'm a lot more accurate with this particular rod than any other rod, really. So I think if I do get another rod, it'll be some type of medium heavy rod in a 7-foot, I think. I think 7 foot, 7'2" is probably my go-to size as far as rod goes, just because I'm from the bank. And if I am in a boat or on a buddy's boat or on a family boat, that's a good rod size to have too. I don't like anything really over that 7.6 rod. That gets kind of clunky and hard to move around in the cover on the bank, especially making those flips or those pitches into some cover, and you want to be accurate. That 7.6 rod sometimes gets in the way of the overhang. Again, only negative that I have is the butt end of the rod. There is a chip in the cork or the plastic, whatever this material is on the end here. There's a chip that just came off, and again, I am not by any means hard on my gear, and this rod's not even, this might be a year old, if that. So for $100, it's a great rod, great action, great sensitivity. It's holding up very, very well. But again, for that price point, my only negative is it chipped very easily, and I don't even know how that happened. It looks like something dug into it pretty hard, because there's a pretty good gash right here out of this chip. I have no idea what happened or when it happened. Again, I'm not hard on my gear by any means, so I really don't know what the situation was, where that happened, or how that happened. Again, that's my only negative on that particular rod. So again, that was the regular SLX on a 7-foot medium heavy favorite defender with 12-pound fluorocarbon. All right, guys, moving right along. So these next two rods are both going to be SLX rods. However, and they're both 7.2 rods. The one that I have in my hands right now is a 7.2 medium heavy extra fast tip. Now, and what's on it is that SLX DC. Hopefully you guys can see, obviously. So what's on it is the SLX DC. SLX DC reel is in 8:2 gear ratio. So one of my faster reels. And on there is that Power Pro 50-pound braid. What I have found out is my 7-foot medium heavy Bass Pro rod used to be the rod of choice that I liked as far as for frogs. But I did mess around with a frog on here last year, at least on the rod. Maybe not with the reel, but with the rod. And I did like how the tip worked with that frog. So I am going to see this year, right now, you know, I'm using it as my Texas rig rod. So right now I got a lunker log on there, but you know, I've had a bandito bug and a craw on there and all sorts of stuff. So right now it's set up for Texas rig. But I think once these summer months come, I'm gonna have this kind of be my frogging setup. Again, like I said, 50-pound braid on here, got the 8:2-to-1 gear ratio reel, that high-speed reel. I can catch up to those fish if they're coming out of cover with that frog, or I can catch up to them to get that good hook set. Medium heavy, 7'2", great length, great action. That fast tip is the only variable, right? I'm not familiar with its extra fast tip. I do like the action that it gives to a frog. So we're gonna try frogging with this setup here this year once it gets a little bit warmer. Again, 7.2 SLX, Shimano SLX rod with the medium heavy extra fast tip with the SLX DC in an 8:2-to-1 gear ratio, 50-pound braid on here. Moving right along to the next rod and reel. Like I said, same rod, Shimano SLX rod. This is a 7.2 heavy rod, fast tip. Went with the 7.2 heavy to replace the 7.6 heavy. And the reason why is I wanted something a little bit shorter. Again, like I said, that 7.6 from the bank in certain situations was difficult to get an accurate flip or pitch in with the size of it, you know, hitting the brush that was in front of me or the brush on the ground, or just the angle of attack that I had to get that bait where I wanted it. Went with something a little bit shorter. And I so far am loving this rod. Like I said, I got two of them, one in that medium heavy extra fast, and then this one, the 7.2, both 7.2 heavy. This is set up again with a jig and set up really for flipping. You know, like I said, that's really what I want it for, is, you know, throwing a jig out there, throwing a Texas rig out there. So once that 7.2 gets a frog tied on it, and most of the time we're getting close to the time of the year, and I say time because the weather is not cooperating right now. I said that SLX DC on that 7.2 medium heavy extra fast tip is going to get a frog soon, and that's pretty much all it's going to have on it for the majority of the time. So we're going to move that Texas rig to here, and then, you know, be able to use a Texas rig and a jig. And then I think that 7.6 heavy is going to be my backup jig rod. So what do we have on the reel? Reel is a Corrado DC. The high speed gear, 8.2, 8.1 gear ratio reel. Again, high speed, because what I'm using it for is flipping, and I want to be able to catch up to those fish. I want to be able to get a good hook set in them, reach them real quickly and wrench them out if needed. That's why we're going, again, 50-pound braid on here, making sure that we're stacking the deck in our favor. As far as the DCs go, my favorite so far, I'm gonna tell you guys, like I said in a previous video, I was really digging the SLX. Getting the SLX DC, I am liking the SLX DC even over my Corrado DC, to be honest with you guys. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't like the Corrado DC. I absolutely love my Corrado DC, but I tend to favor the SLX DC for what I have it set up for, essentially, right? I mean, both of these rods could easily throw a Texas rig, easily throw a jig. I'm favoring that SLX DC right now. As far as quality, again, guys, both of the reels on the SLX rods, Shimano reel on the favorite rod. Awesome reels, guys. Not sponsored, or, you know, today's video is not sponsored by them. I'm not affiliated with Shimano, but it is definitely a company that I've done, you know, my some research in, as far as when I wanted to move from those more budget friendly reels and rods to something a little bit, you know, more substantial. Once fishing really kind of took off for me and really became something that I wanted to pursue again. So Shimano is where I landed. Can't say enough about the quality and performance of the rods and reels. Absolutely love the SLX series rods. They're great for the price, great sensitivity, great for beginners, I would even say, or, you know, if you have younger kids, definitely can pick up a few of these on the price point that they are. So again, guys, SLX rod, 7.2 heavy rod, 50-pound Power Pro braid, 8.2 to 1 gear ratio reel, Corrado DC reel, meant for catching up to fish, right? Both of these applications, we're trying to catch up to fish if they make a run. The only other rod that I don't have in front of me here right now, guys, is my spinning combo. Hopefully you guys have learned or at least gotten some ideas of possible bank fishing arsenal, right? Rods and reels, tons of different companies here. We got 3 different rod companies, 2 different reel companies, a couple of different lines to choose from. We have braid, we have fluoro. The one that we didn't touch on right now is that spinning combo. Again, that's a budget-friendly spinning combo. I think I picked it up at Bass Pro for $30 or $40. It was a whole set. It's a 2-piece spinning combo, 6.6 medium powered rod with a 5.6 or 5.5 to 1 gear ratio reel on there. Real nice spool size. I think it's either a 2000, it might be a 2000. I think it's a 2000 size spool. I'll have to, don't hold me to it. I'll have to double check for you guys. I don't have it here. I actually have it in my car. That's the rod that I keep in my car because it's a 2-piece rod. I can take it apart, throw it in the trunk. I have a tackle box in there, you know, one of those Plano 3700 boxes in there with some terminals, some weight. Again, guys, hopefully you've gotten some insight as far as potential options, right? We have 7.2 heavy, 7.2 medium heavy, 2 7-foot medium heavies, and a 7.6 heavy. We have gear ratios starting at 8.2 to 1 on the high speed side, 7.2 to 1 in the middle, and then we have a 6.6 to 1 on the lower end as far as bait casters. Like I said, we have a spinning combo that's a 5.5 to 1, I believe it is. So we have rods and reels that range the entire spectrum. So you don't have to necessarily have all these rods if you're just starting out. Like I said, I started out with just one rod. It was a 7-foot medium heavy, and that's what I recommend to you guys. If you're just starting out, just getting into bait casting, reels, or just getting into fishing, I highly recommend getting yourself a 7-foot medium heavy fast tip rod, and then a 7-2 gear ratio reel, or somewhere in the sevens. 7-2 probably is your best bet as far as starting out. I recommend a 7-foot medium heavy fast tip rod for an all-around rod for starting out. And like I said, 7:2 to 1 gear ratio reel. You can do almost anything with it. If you're gonna crank, you can slow down that reel. If you're gonna throw a spinner bait, chatter bait, swim jig, you're gonna flip a jig, you're gonna do some Texas rigging, you're gonna throw a frog, you definitely have enough muscle in the rod and enough speed or enough control via yourself with controlling the retrieve to either speed up or slow down, or just do a regular retrieve with that 7:2 to 1 to pick up that line. Definitely an all-around great pick for a starting rod reel setup. Then once you have your basic all-around rod, you can then, if you're ready to expand or you want to get technique specific rods, whether it be a punching rod, a flipping rod, a crank rod, any type of technique specific, whether then you switch to braid, fluoro, mono, whatever, you can always build on that first rod. Like I said, 7-foot medium heavy, went then and got a 7.6 heavy for those other applications, and pretty much those two rods you can do anything that you really want to. All right guys, so that's gonna end it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys got some helpful insight on the different speeds of reels, different lengths of rods, different applications, and what can work for you, what works for me. Like I said, I started out with that 7-foot medium heavy rod and a 7:2 to 1 gear ratio reel. That really was my bread and butter until I started really dialing in and really thinking about taking fishing on again as a hobby, as a sport, and now vlogging it to you guys. By no means do you have to go all out and get all these rods and reels. I'm not affiliated with any of these companies. Just my preference, thought I'd share with you guys. Like I said, we run the gamut from a 6:6 to 1 ratio reel all the way up to an 8:2 to 1 gear ratio, and then anything as low as a 6.6 rod, 6'6" rod, all the way up to a 7.6 rod. So again guys, if you like today's video, go ahead and smash that thumbs up, give this video a like, and be sure to comment your favorite fluorocarbon. Like I said, I'm looking for a dedicated fluoro that I would like to start using. Like I said, I have the Guggen Squad fluoro, I have the P-Line fluoro. Really those two are the two that I'm really putting through the ringer here as far as testing it for me and my preference. I like both of them actually right now, but there are other fluorocarbons that I haven't tried and some that I've tried that I don't like. So go ahead and drop a comment. What do you guys like? What do you guys recommend? What do you guys want to see on the channel? Or what do you guys want to see me throw onto one of these reels and test out? Again, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel if you haven't already. That's very much appreciated also, guys. That way you can stay in on all of this awesome content coming. I'm hoping that soon the spawn is going to happen, that Mother Nature and the weather is going to cooperate. It feels like I'm a broken record saying that over and over again, that the weather. But we went from 70s a couple days ago to 50s in a heartbeat like that overnight. So it's mind-boggling, but soon guys, soon we're in that spawn time of the year right now. It's the beginning of May. Normally I'm already seeing some fish on beds. I haven't seen that yet. I've seen some beds, I've even seen some fry. Again, I don't know if they're bass fry or not, but I'm seeing signs of it. I think we have a full moon coming up, or we just had one. Don't hold me to it, I haven't checked. But I'm hoping here in maybe the next few days we're going to start warming up again. And maybe in that time frame, those fish that are already cruising, will decide to start bedding, and I'm going to try and dedicate a couple of videos just to bed fishing. Like I said, it's my favorite time of the year, so I want to really dive into it for you guys and really showcase it. Definitely stay tuned, and if you're not subscribed and you don't have those notification bells turned on, you're going to miss out on all of that. As always, Instagram is linked in the description. Go ahead and give me a follow there. That is where I tend to announce, where I announced my last giveaway, which has ended already. But if you're there, you get that inside track, inside information on videos that are coming to the channel or possible giveaways for the future here. So be sure to go and check the description for the Instagram. Other than that, guys, I appreciate you guys taking the time and watching. I appreciate all of you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.